Right, I think we are good. Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's live stream. Today is one of our regular Friday rotation. It's the off week of Adeptus Podcasters. I'm not recording it this weekend, and so we're going to be having a live stream just like I have said we were going to do. Tonight's stream, we actually have something a little bit different. So obviously over the past couple of weeks we've done about 5 or 6 streams, including some absolutely monstrously long ones. Yeah, that was fun. And we completed the Altar of Cain hobby project with the converted altar and all the painting and all of the stuff that we had to do to get that done. It took me, I think I overdid my maths on the count up. I think it was about 25 to 30 hours rather than the 35 to 40 I seemed to have in my head at the time. So yeah, after about 25 to 30 hours of work, most of which was done live, we completed the Altar of Cain. But, of course, just because one project is finished doesn't mean that the hobby train ever stops rolling. And so I got a little bit busy with a bunch of stuff, and I created a new conversion to work on, and that's something that you may have seen by the title of this stream. What we're going to be working on is a Hag Queen conversion. So I'm going to put the image up on the screen now, and then I'm going to leave an image up in that corner throughout the stream. So there's going to be an image in that corner to tell people what I'm working on so that I don't have to keep flicking back and forth between the screens. So here is the model in question. It's not entirely glued together. Part of it is in sub-assemblies because I need to paint all the bits like the base, and certain parts need to be pulled off to access all the areas. But that is the miniature that we are working on. It is a Daughters of Cain Hag Queen conversion cum kit bash. I consider it a conversion rather than a kit bash, but you could kind of take it either way, I suppose. So what I've done for the conversion is I've kept a lot of the Hag Queen actually the same. So it's the same legs and the same torso and left arm as the main original queen. Because of the way that the assembly goes together, it made a lot of sense to keep those components together. And so I did. I kept the same torso, and it also meant that because the chalice arm was attached to the torso by sculpt rather than by glue, I decided it would be easier to keep that arm on rather than chop it off and attach it to a different torso that I didn't actually have anyway. But rather than put it on the little skull that you get in the Cauldron of Blood kit for when you make a Blood Rack Shrine, like I did for my original Hag Queen, which is just over to one side, I decided to give her a bit more presence. So using the hammer from the Sigmarite Dace, so as you may know, the Sigmarite Dace terrain feature comes with a statue of Sigmar, but because I didn't make Sigmar, I used the avatar instead. I had all the Sigmar statue parts left over. And so, quite simply, I took the hammer head, the head of Galmaraz, I think it is, and I decided to use that as something for the Hag Queen to stand on, as you can see there. And actually, it balanced up quite nicely on the hammer. It was about the right height. I got a bit lucky with how it balanced, so excellent. As for what I did next, I then worked on the arm. So that arm is taken from the Melisai kit and is one of the spears used by the Blood Sisters. Not the Blood Stalkers, they're the archers. The Blood Sisters, their Gorgai, which is the unit champion, has their spear held in one hand. I've forgotten its actual true name and it will hit me later. The spear with a crystal touch. And so, because, well, actually, to be honest, it broke on the frame, so I tried to put it back together, but it proved to be a bit long. So I just let the break happen and attached the arm in place of the Cainite dagger, the Blade of Cain, that the Hag Queen normally has, just to make it a bit larger and a bit more imposing. Actually, I can see a bit of flash on it, so I'm going to need to trim that off before I start painting. And I then did a head swap using one of the heads from the Kinnerai Life Takers. So they're the ones that are the sickle harpies for the Daughters of Cain. because the normal Hag Queen comes with a lot of hair. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to flip this on its head and I'm going to do one with no hair. And on the back, you can't see it in this image, but you will on screen later, I put the shield of Volturnos, actually. So that is the shield of Volturnos, the High King of the Deeps, that I'm using on her back. Because I reasoned that, well, when you're not carrying around the chalice, or you need to put it away for a second because you're in the middle of a fight, it makes sense to carry around a shield. However, I could also, if I root around in my boxes, dig out a Dark Rider's cloak. I think it would be too big, especially with the tabard that she's got and sort of lower body cloak. I think 2 cloaks would be overkill. But that was something that I considered because it's a lot more tribalistic and shamanistic compared to a Hag Queen. I get a real vibe of... I can't put my finger on the miniature. I swear I've seen a miniature that looks something like this before for Khorne or something, or for Chaos somewhere. I don't know why. I feel like I have. And so that's the conversion that we're going to be working on. And the new addition to the stream is I've created a currently working on image, so that if people ask what are you doing when they join the stream later, because people always join the stream a little bit later, I can say this is what I'm working on. It's up in the corner. And you can also see there, you might need to look a bit closer, you can see the shield as well for Volturnos. So that at the moment is attached with blue tack, so I'll pull that off as and when. Glad people like the conversion, that's pleasing to see. We've got 6 people here at the moment, but granted I did a terrible job with the promo because I was kind of scrambling to get to the shops, and then the oven took ages. He's had to cook dinner and eat dinner, so it was a bit of a scramble, which is why I was a minute or 2 late. But we are here, we are live, and we have plenty to do. So, with any luck, this shouldn't be too taxing of a paint job, certainly compared to the monstrous job that was the Altar of Cain. I'm hoping this will only take me a couple of hours, and I think the stream should go for about 2.5, 3 hours max, because I'd also like to talk about, if people are interested and maybe they've got some information that isn't leaks. I don't want to hear leaks. If people have seen something that I missed from GW about the reveal stream tomorrow, then I would be more than happy to talk about it, make some predictions, and obviously something that you may know, I've talked about in other streams, is that we do a Snarkathon quite often in the Discord server, in my channel's Discord server, which is often linked by the stream mods when they get a minute. You can join that, and we'll be doing a live watch-along Snarkathon, which I've borrowed from the late great Total Biscuit as a name, where we watch the reveals and talk about it together. So if you're interested in that, you can join the server. I'll try and get this stream published fast enough so that people can join it. But streams always get demonetized. Don't know why. They always get left as limited availability, and so I have to manually review every single one before I publish them. Tis what tis. Right. Let us crack on then and get started with this Hag Queen. So the sub-assemblies I've got her in is I've got a Shattered Dominion base, a 25mm, and I've also got a couple of pieces of grass from the Lumineth Realm Lord's Auralan Wardens. So the Auralan Wardens kit comes with the little bits of grass that you can put, you're supposed to put with the unit champion. I didn't bother. And so you put them on here, just either side of the Galmaraz, to sort of show that it's collapsed and has been like sort of overgrown with time. And then I've got her attachment to the hammerhead itself, which I may need to slightly rejig because the base of it is not actually a flat circle. It's kind of a half circle, which is annoying. So I might need to retrim it a little bit, but I'm going to hope I don't need to. And the other sub-assembly, I've got the head and the shield, though in truth, the head should probably be glued on at this point. I just forgot to glue it on at the time. So I'm going to glue her head on now, so as I don't lose it, because I know what I am like. So I'm just going to get all this off there from the shield and the head, and I'm going to glue the head on just before I start. Yeah, the reveals are tomorrow, the 22nd of August at 2 PM UK time, unless I've completely got my dates wrong, which I don't think I have. So, yeah, the reveals are tomorrow. Well, tomorrow UK time. It's technically, well, No, it would be tomorrow, even in New Zealand and Australia and the like, because it's 12 hours ahead. So there'll be parts of the world where it's today, but those parts will be very few and far between. It'll be the places where it's early hours of the morning now. In which case, why are you even here? You should be in bed. Even if it is a Saturday morning, go to sleep. We will see exactly what comes out. Obviously, we've seen some things that hint at the Shadow Elves. Like there's the Talon type thing that came up on one of the rumour engines, which got people thinking that maybe Shadow Elves. And they do have a habit of releasing elves in pairs. So they released the Daughters of Cain and the Idoneth Deepkin together, as a one for Hish, one for Ulgu. Though the Idoneth being Hish is kind of pushing it. So maybe they'll do the same with the Lumineth and the Shadow Elves. Alternatively, they might release the other Elven warband for Warcry. Now that we've got the sort of Marathi elves, not truly Daughters of Cain, but sort of the Marathi elves going into Warcry, maybe we'll see something more in the Bloodwind Spoil for the elves. I don't know. Just a thought for you to chew over there. How would that... If I left that there, that would be... Ooh, that would be awkward. We'll see exactly how that one shakes out. Oh, head. I was going to do the head on. We might see something for the Astra Militarum, but I wouldn't hold out much hope. Bear in mind that 40k showed off all those different potential new models, like the Sisters Palatine, the Skitarii, I assume Alpha, and the Orc, and the presumed Leather Tesperax revamp. So I don't think we're going to be seeing more new 40k models that we haven't seen hinted at before. If we're going to see a new 40k miniature, it will be one that they've sort of teased already, I would expect. But that's just my opinion on the matter. How's that? That's fine. Yeah, the Hag Queen has a really weird neck. The neck, instead of being a flat neck joint, it's sort of a kick drop neck joint, which is actually really awkward to swap the head or repose the head. As it is, I've made it work, but certainly I've seen easier. Right, okay, that's done now. Okay, so while that dries, we can get on with some painting, and I'm going to start with... I think I'm going to start with the base, just so I can get it over and done with and out of the way. Right, base brush, because I don't need to do much here. This will not take me long. Do I want to do it in the style of my Lumineth bases? Or do I want to do something a little bit different? Like, I'm going to do grey. Yeah, I think I should do it and try and get all my Shattered Dominion bases to be tied together. That one for the cities is an Anvil Guard style, but that's unique and that can stay unique. Fine, no one cares. Astrogranite. Oh yeah, Creed's not the only Lord General. I'm in no way suggest that he was. Merely that I don't think that they will drop another Guard model before they've sort of cleaned up the host of models that they showed to us on the end of Indomitus release days stream. I think they've got to clear that backlog first before they go sneaking any extra stuff like the Guard in. But they are going to have to hurry through the Codex releases. So I don't think many are... Well... I almost say I don't think many armies will get new miniatures for their codex, and then obviously everything they showed on Indomitus Day proves the exact opposite of that. So I don't know. I think we may see a Guard miniature, but I don't think we'll see it tomorrow, if you know what I mean. That's my personal 2 cents on the matter. Fang. Sorry, I'm being very, very rude and impersonal. How are people doing in stream tonight? How are chat? I realise I've been talking about what I'm doing and all that stuff, and I haven't really asked the question. How are chat? How are people doing this not so stupidly warm Friday evening? I mean, I'm still pretty warm, but certainly today's been all about the wind rather than the heat. It's been a very windy day. Okay, that's that. Yeah, I'm just kind of racing through getting the base ready, because then once the base is done, I can get the hammer done and stick the hammer to the base and the grass to the base, and then that bit's all done and I can focus on the queen. Whereas if I do the queen, I can finish the queen and then I've got to roll back round and do the base. So I'm just sort of doing it in a different order to how I would normally do things. Do I want it to be gold hammer with a silver inlet? Or do I just want it to be gold? Okay, now what do I know? Just needed a second to think about that. Where's my retributor armor? I'm gonna have to wash this gold down pretty heavily actually, because it should be very like worn down and stuff like that. So once I've got the Caribou Crimson on it, I might need to look at something like Agrax Earthshade as well. Just sort of tone it down a bit. Heck, maybe Truki Violet, because it's been covered in the, it's been sunk into the land of the Realm of Shadow a bit. I don't know. Good evening. Got one of the mods here, which is excellent. In fact, they've been here longer than that. I just decided to acknowledge it at that point. Got to be honest, I think part of my motivation for wanting to get this Hag Queen done, aside from, just cuz, it's because I know I'm getting Morgwaith's Blade Coven tomorrow, so I pre-ordered Morgwaith's Blade Coven with my local store, and I'm going to go pick it up tomorrow before the reveal stream. So that's something that I can be working on next week. In whatever streams I have time for, I'll try and working on Morgwaith's Blade Coven, because I want Morgwaith herself in particular to be the High Priestess on the Altar of Cain. I really do. I really like her model on the Altar of Cain. Though, to be honest, this Hag Queen could also work on it, so I might have a bit of an and an ah about what way round I want to do things with my Hag Queens. So that's part of it. And the other thing, one thing I did want to ask about with chat, and this is something that I've talked about the Discord server a bit as well, is the next project. So at the moment, obviously, we've just finished the Altar of Cain. That's a big terrain project, and that's now done. But I really enjoyed doing a big terrain project like that. It was long, it was challenging, and I did apply a lot of things I've never done before. But I really enjoyed actually doing a project like that. And so I would be curious, and I was tempted to do a poll on the community tab, but then couldn't come up with the right options as to what to do for the next stage of the project, the sort of the next terrain project. So I'm also open to opinions from chat on that one as well. Sort of, what should I do as our next big project, if you will. I've been listening to too much Irish music. Well, I say too much. I really enjoyed it. Reminds you of where you came from and all that. I just like Celtic music anyway. Sisters video. Sisters. I've done several different sisters. Like Sisters of Battle, Sisters of Silence, the Sisters of Silence Addendum. Which one? Yes, I did see that comment about on the Scutarii video because yeah, sure, in the guard you've got about 15 hours to live on average in a combat zone, but at least you're not essentially enslaved to the will of a mad technology obsessed lunatic. And I think I was maybe a bit polite to the Adeptus Mechanicus in sort of how well treated the Scutarii are. I was probably a bit polite to them. So, though I won't lie, I misread that the first time I saw your sister's video just because of where the apostrophe is. It's like, I don't have a sister. Like, what are you getting at? I don't have a sister. Just because of where the apostrophe is. I was like, what? It took me a second to think, oh, wait, no, sisters of whatever. That Sororitas video is from when I was in France. It's about, I remember doing it, I think. Oh no, hang on, am I getting confused with my Ecclesiarchy video? Or did I do them around the same time? I did them around the same time. My Sororitas and Ecclesiarchy videos, I think, were both done while I was in France. Which is now over 2 years ago since I came back from France. Well, it's been over 2 months. It's over 2 years for a while. It's 2 years and nearly 2 months now. No need for them. No need to apologise. It's it's my fault. I misread it, or decided to misinterpret it. So it's my bad. Easy mistake to make. Well, not easy mistake to make. I don't have a sister, so I don't even know why my brain went in that direction. Okay, that's that done. So I've just done the hammer. Well, I've done most of the hammer for the base. I'm going to do the rest of it silver and then just sort of leave it. I'm just going to do it. I'm working through this stuff pretty quickly just so I can get straight on to the queen as soon as possible without having to then like leave her finished and just perched I'm going to just leave her unstarted until I've done the base, which won't take me too long at all. Excellent. Doing all right, thank you. Bit warm, but I think that's just because I absolutely snaffled my dinner very quickly before I got started. And so I walk into the shops very quickly. And the common joke I make, and I'll make this joke to my students as well, when they're old enough to understand it, is some people say I walk really fast, to which I say I just have good frequency and wavelength. I sincerely hope someone gets that joke. It's not funny, but I sincerely hope someone gets that joke. Right, hang on, wrong paint. That's the good lead belcher. Oof, indeed. Yes, it's not a great joke, but yeah, no. Oh, hang on, that's split. Hate metallic paints, but can't paint non-metallics. Just to let people know, I've said this already, in the Discord, tomorrow for the reveal stream, there's going to be a Snarkathon going on. I'm just going to promote that a couple of times throughout the stream. So yeah, if you want to watch along with us and have a bit of chat with myself, the mods, and some of the other people in the server about the reveals, as they happen, you are welcome to do so. I'm not going to live tweet it or anything. Live tweeting is not really my thing. But I will be doing a Snarkathon, and I might do, I probably won't do it in that voice call, but I'll do my thoughts on afterwards as well. So you'll get exclusive access to my opinions before the rest of the internet gets them. To be honest, it's not really that exclusive because, you know, you just have to click a link and the stream will be public for anyone who wants to watch it. So it's not that exclusive. Well, I'm glad someone found that joke funny. I made this joke on my first day of my second PGCE placement. I made that frequency wavelength joke to my new mentor. And I was very worried that I just completely dropped myself in it. Because, you know, I thought, open with a joke, that'll be good. Because that's just the way I operate as a teacher. It's quite often is to try and have a little bit of humour. And to be honest, he was quiet for about 5 seconds, and I was just like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. That was a bad joke. But no, I got it. So we got on really well, but I think it was just maybe not the perfect start to our working relationship. The colour scheme I'm going for with the Hag Queen is going to be the same as the rest of my Daughters of Cain. So it's going to be red armour, where appropriate, with white hair, washed with a bit of Coelia green shade, purple for the robes, black for the boots, and liberal use of gold for the details like the goblets, the crest, the helm. So in fact the whole helm will be done in gold. Yeah, I can go through the bits that made it in a minute. I'm just going to read this. No one said quite like that, but yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. So the kits I used, so up in that, keep pointing the wrong direction, that corner. So the base model, so the torso and the legs are drawn from, you know, the Hag Queen. It's her legs and her torso, as well as her chalice arm, because they're all attached together. The torso and the chalice are permanently sculpted together. And it's her legs. The head is from the Kinnerai Life Takers. So that's the winged elves. The weapon is half a spear from the Blood Sisters. So that's the snake elves, the ones with the spears. And the thing on the back, the shield, is from Volturnos. So it's from the Achelian King / Queen kit from the Ideneth. The hammer is from the Sigmar statue, which you can get either in the Sigmarite Dace, or if you get the, I think the Hallowed Stormbolt or Time-Worn Ruins scenery kits, then you can get that statue of Sigmar, because I didn't use it in the Altar of Cain. And there's a little bit of grass on the bases, so that comes, those two little grass tufts are from the Auralan Wardens, from the Lumineth, and the base is a standard Shatter Dominion 25mm. The masks for the Sisters of Slaughter don't come with the horns. That's the way to tell the difference between a Sisters of Slaughter mask and a Hag Queen mask. And a Kinnerai Life Takers mask is the horns. So the Kinnerai have got horned helms, because I think they actually have like horns, if I think about my heart renders, whereas the Sisters of Slaughter do not, and that's how you know the difference. Because it really reminds me, like, especially from a distance, you look at the model, and it really reminds me like some shamanistic chaos priest rather than a priest of Cain. So it sort of teeters with the idea that the Daughters of Cain are not that good. They are evil. They're order, but they're evil. And so having them be presented this way, I think, kind of works for me. Also, I want to paint those runes in silver, and I'll make them a really bright silver, I think. Do them in Stormhost at the end. Because if anything's going to stand out, it will be the glowing runes of Sigmarite power. Or, sorry, Azerite power. Hey, at least it's a different 4-letter combination to all the ones on the pillar. God, those pillars are constantly repeating letter combinations. To be fair, none of this stream has been 40k. But I did see that, and to be honest, I've sort of kept up with the whole Call of Duty thing because when I was a lot younger, sort of admittedly a bit too young to play it, I got really enraptured with COD Zombies. And I know the Zombies community, the YouTubers who I sort of got to following back then, have been heavily involved in solving all the Easter eggs that led to the reveal. So I've kept up with it that way, and I think I do like the Cold War. It's one of my regrets from my GCSE history is that I never got to study the Cold War. So at my GCSE, this was AQA GCSE history. It's split into 6 modules. You've got the causes of World War I, like the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations, the build-up to World War II and the rise of Nazi Germany. Then you've got the origins of the Cold War, the during the Cold War, so things like Vietnam, and then the fall of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. And I really loved that idea, but we did that half, so all the stuff that, you know, was about Britain and all the roles of Britain and Germany, because I guess we're in Britain, so that's just what they want us to know about, I don't know. So we did that half, so World War I to World War II. But because I was doing very well in my GCSE history classes, I would often finish the work early. And so what I would do is when I was finished, I would just flick into the second half of the textbook and just read all the sections about the Cold War. So I got really fascinated with the Cold War through all of that. So I'm actually quite interested with it. So I'm actually quite down with it, though admittedly it will probably not be that close to true history, let's be honest. So I do like the Cold War as an aesthetic, and I've quite enjoyed the oversimplified videos on the Cold War. So shout out to Oversimplified. I know they're absolutely massive relative to me, but shout out to Oversimplified for giving me so much Cold War knowledge that actually proved really useful on the family pub quiz once. We did do bits around like US presidents and stuff, and it was actually quite useful. So, you know. No, I wasn't. Well, I say that. Of the characters that were in the Imperial Guard 5th edition Codex, which when it came out in 2009, I did actually own that Codex. I think I got it second hand. And the characters in there that tempted me were Baston of Cadia, Al-Rahem of Talon, and Chenkov of Valhalla. Valhalla at the time didn't do it for me because, bear in mind, at the time I was 13. Actually, correction, I was 12, and I didn't really learn about the Cold War until I was 15. So it was a few years before I got my interest in Russia and the Cold War. And my brother went on to do A-level history, and he did about the fall of the Tsar. So I didn't have the interest at the time, and I was more interested in characters like Al-Rahem because he seemed really cool with the outflanking and all that stuff. So yeah, it's one of those things. If I was play Astra Militarum today, I don't even know what regiments I'd go for. None of them really aesthetically grab me quite the same, but then again, that's because a lot of the old models are old models, and so if they updated the miniatures range for the Astra Militarum, it might make me think about it, but at the moment, there's no real interest in doing it. I see what you were saying about the horns as well. It really feels like a Chaos Priest. It reminds me of the Dark Oath. I want to say it looks like a Dark Oath miniature, but I don't know. That's just the vibe I get off of her, is that it's a Dark Oath miniature. Right, where's my Corax White? I need to tie this up later, but I'm doing it in the same style as my Lumineth bases, where I've got the sort of white magic power running through the earth. So it's like they're sharing a battlefield / realm with the Lumineth, because I want all these armies to sort of come together in Old Gish and fight. That I've talked about that before at length, is sort of what I'm going for. I've got that song in my head now. Oh, they're still selling the army. I was looking at your comment about 3 choices, and I assumed you meant Cadia, Katakan, Krieg. I assumed they were the 3 choices, rather than like Steel Legion and Valhallans and Vostroyans. I assumed you were referring to Krieg. But fair enough, if they're still selling the Armageddon models, then I've just learned something new today. Oh yeah, of course, Krieger on Forge Worlds are technically doesn't count the same way. Counts, but not in the same way because it's not sold by GW. So yeah, fair enough. That'll be where my confusion comes from. Right, let's do that skull, tidy up the grey, and then I can just quickly throw some green on the grass And we'll be good to go. Caliban, 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 green. Can I get some paint on this brush, please? Damn it. There we go. Do the top of the tufts, and that's that. Okay, so they're done. Well, that's the first of the grass done. I know it's supposed to be like corn with like sheaths of corn on the top, but I am not painting that a different yellow, a different like shade of green or yellow. I'm just painting the whole thing green and moving on. It's a little bit of extra decoration, nothing more. Don't drop that. Okay. Can't beat Friday nights. I know, Friday nights, just stay at home, stay safe, paint models, all is well. To be honest, if I was painting like the other side of the flat, you'd probably be able to hear the pub across the way. I'm on the inside of my complex rather than the outside, and on the outside is the pub. And you'd be able to hear the pub most likely. So this is better. Okay, I haven't been dinged. That's a notification in another server. Yeah, like a lot of the guard regiments are inspired by different parts of history. Absolutely. I can't say I know every single one to one, nor would I want to sort of guess and get it wrong. But certainly I know that there is historical data and referencing used in every single regiment, or at least inspiration, if not a direct one-to-one, then it's certainly inspired by various military outfits throughout history. The Mordians is one I don't know so well, but they're relentlessly drilled, because they're so relentlessly drilled and stiff upper lip. It kind of makes me think of like an old school version of the British Army, but I could very much be wrong, and obviously the colour scheme would be different. I don't know what the Mordian inspiration is. Maybe it's an old French army, I don't know. I mean, the Solar Auxilia are the Militarum Tempestus, or the ancestors to the Militarum Tempestus, so they play by their own rules. I wouldn't say you've got to be insane to go to the pub. I think that's pushing it too far. I think and I'm speaking as a young person who's had that and has recovered, I play it very safe. I'm playing it very safe because I know I've got to go to school. I don't think it's insane to go. I think you've got to be careful, and going to the pub to get absolutely wazdakkered is probably not something I would be doing with my time. But I don't think it's a matter of if you go to the pub, you're nuts. I would never go that far. I think I understand why people would go, and I understand the reasons for it, both socially and economically. I do get it. But yeah, it's not something I would particularly choose to do. But I've been to the pub. On the day I moved in here, I had lunch in the pub because I had to wait around for a bit. So I went and had lunch in the pub. Anyway, we're going to leave that topic behind because A, it'll get me even more demonetized, and B, there's just not that much to say on the matter, really. Or certainly not much I feel needs to be said on the matter, so we're going to leave it there. The Wazdaka joke actually is an old joke that I have in my family, because Wazdaka was the first character I ever collected, I ever owned, well, converted actually. And so, sort of instead of saying tired, instead of like, because knackered is a very common word that we use in our family, sort of say wazdakkered instead, it just kind of became a running joke. But hey, it's such an absolute nothing, but yeah, it is what it is. Just going to use a bit of Mechanica standard to tidy all that up. Fair enough. Have a good afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it happens to be where you are. Are we almost there? Yeah, so we're just going to do the little bits of base around the plant, and then we are good to go. And that'll be the base, well, base coated, and so I feel that at that point I can move straight on to the queen, and then I can do all the washes together, and then the base will be ready for the queen. That's sort of why I've been doing things in this order. It's sort of that the base can then be ready for the queen, rather than finishing the queen and then just, oh, hang on, I've got another thing to do. It'll take me about like 40 minutes to just go and do the base. Might as well do it first, and then it's out the way and done. Right, so I'm happy with that now. That's dealt with, and we can actually start the queen. Bit late getting started on the queen, given that's what I said we were doing, but we're ready to go with that now. So, flesh. First thing to do is a white undercoat. I know, I'm doing an undercoat. What is this nonsense? I'm doing an undercoat. But I find that for elven flesh anyway, because it's so bright white, I have to do an undercoat for the Pallid Witch flesh or it looks terrible. I would definitely be down to see a new Death faction tomorrow. I think with Order getting what it's got, and Destruction's got the Sons of Behemoth around the corner, I think Death would be a really good next faction, and I've long wanted Soulblight, the vampire faction, because I like Blood Knights and because I like chunky heavy cavalry. So I would quite happily get Soulblight tomorrow. Of course, I'd be down with seeing the Shadow Elves instead, but that's because I'm biased and I like elves. I think for the grand scheme of the game, I think it's better to keep the balance, and so adding another Death faction would be good, in my opinion. Vampires on boats. I don't think we're going to get like the Vampire Coast. I think that would be pushing it. I don't think we're going to get Vampirates, but I think just getting like an update to the Soulblight Vampires, new Blood Knights in particular. I don't think we really need a new Zombie Dragon because I think the Zombie Dragon's fine because it's as old as the Terrorgeist, and the Terrorgeist is absolutely fine. It's the same kit, actually. But like new Blood Knights, new Fellbats, maybe a new Vampire Lord on like Nightmare or something. That would be cool. It's been a hot minute since I painted some Daughters of Cain, I've got to be honest. Like, I did a bunch of elves during lockdown, for sure. I did a few Eyed Neth and I did some Cities of Sigmar, but it's been a hot minute since I've painted some Daughters of Cain. You forget just how much bloody exposed flesh there is. It's a bit silly, to be honest. And yes, I know that's the aesthetic, and no, I'm not being lured into anything you could say in follow up to that. Oh, you just want a Nagashi and Navy forget Vampire Coast. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, I think that would be cool. The problem is, like, naval factions are difficult because a naval faction, we've seen like watery factions or like navy like factions before. You've got the Caradron, who are sky navy, and so get around the problem, and the Ideneth, who can literally teleport but only canonically strike from the ocean. And you've got the Scourge Privateers, who don't use boats, but they do use sea monsters. So there's scope for it. There's definitely scope for it, but I don't know. I don't think Nagash is the type to use a dedicated navy. Like, why would he bother? Like, between teleportation and raising the dead on land anyway, why bother with a navy? Interesting. Oh wow, okay, it's tempted to get them use bits and pieces for a Night Lord's army. That would be cool. Granted, I think the scaling would be all wrong. Like the scale between the vampire pieces and the size of particularly modern Space Marines would be very off, I think, by comparison. But I think it would be a cool idea if you could just borrow bits like of helms and crests and banners. That would be a cool conversion to see, I think. I just have to leave that to try. I usually end up doing 2 coats of white undercoat before I put the flesh on because of just getting a clean coverage with the white before I put the flesh on. So painting flesh just takes ages for me. I mean, we've seen ghost ships before back in fantasy. Do you remember the Dreadfleet ship that was like a ghost? So there was Noctilus's like giant barge castle on a rock, and then there was also like a spirit ship as well, as I recall. So again, scope for it. Not saying it will happen, but there's room in the game for it. Yeah, maybe it'll be an old world thing. That would be cool to see. Because the Nagash of today, you can just like, oh, I need to raid this coastal place that's only accessible by water. Send the Nighthaunt. The Nighthaunt can fly. So they'll just use the Nighthaunt for that job. With regards to Cities of Sigmar, I feel like, yeah, the amount, what they left in was more than sufficient for the city's armies to get by. With like the basic Empire troops, the basic Dwarven troops, and the basic Dark Elf troops. I think they left enough in for cities to get by just fine. But you've got to bear in mind, like, Stormcast aside, you've got to be just aware of how many different things can synergize with each other in that book, and different, like, pulling cities across and units across, and the amount of allies they have access to as well. You've just got to be careful with cities about what you give them. And also, if you put too much into cities, then you can't then put them somewhere else. So we'll never see, well, we're very unlikely to see Battletome, I don't know, Order Serpentis, because the Order Serpentis are in cities. But because they pulled all the High Elf units out, pretty much, they left room for the Lumineth to slide in without infringing too much on the cities. So it may be that leaving them out of cities has left scope for new armies for Order down the road. Just an alternate viewpoint. Yeah, I've not done it exactly neatly, but I've got the first coat of white. To be honest, I've kind of done a second coat as the first coat has dried, so I can probably put the flesh straight over that when we get there. But for now, I'm going to do some of the other bits. So, for example, the easy stuff like the black boots and the silver of the glaive, bits that don't get in the way. Like, for example, the red armor, I've got the shoulder pads, the chest plating, that stuff and the arm plate, that gets in the way of the flesh. So I'm going to leave them until after I've done the flesh, because I always make a mess when I paint flesh. Ba-da-ba-dee-doo. the thing is, if you split it into realms, it doesn't make sense. Like in terms of like the alliances that you forge. So the armies of Gur would be essentially destruction and nothing else. You would have Oryx, you would have Grots, you would have Ogres, and you'd have some chaos and some humans. Whereas the armies of Shyish would be undead, 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 ghosts, zombies, other flavours of undead, ghouls, and the odd stragglers of humanity. And maybe a bit of chaos. Go to Wazir and you get nothing, apart from Stormcast, but they are everywhere. Go to Ulgu, okay, Dark Elves, Shadow Demons, some Slanesh, maybe, some Skaven, maybe, and you're done. The imbalance would be very, very major if you split by realm, and then the alliance matrix would be weird. You'd have to specify, like, oh, so this army of Gurish humans cannot ally with anyone else from Gur, but can ally with the allies from all sorts of different realms because they all worship Sigmar. So why are they not just the Sigmar faction? Oh wait, they are cities. So I think it's a logistics thing as well to keep them in grand alliances rather than realms. Yes, is it a fair balance? No. But if it were a fair balance between the grand alliances, then some realms would get far better treatment. Like, for example, Akshi gets Fire Slayers, some humans, and some chaos, and predominantly Khorne Bloodbound, whereas Shyish gets every single flavour of the Death faction, and also some Shyish and humans, both Sigmarite and Chaotic, whereas Hish gets one flavour of Elves, and if you look at the state of the Hish right now, with the Lumineth, it's pretty much one flavour of Elves and a side of Ironeth. So it'd be difficult to balance the realms as well, especially with the way they've done their storytelling, that they've focused on a bit of space at a time, and so it would be very, very unbalanced. It's difficult. There's no right answer really, but that's sort of my opinion on it. If you wanted it or cared, you probably didn't. Right, boots. You haven't really missed much. Mainly I've just been finishing off the base of the Hag Queen with the hammer and the grass and all that. That's all base coated and ready. And I'm just getting started on the Queen herself. I've undercoated her flesh. So while that sort of dries up, I'm just going to do a couple of other bits like her black boots and her silver glaive. And also some wish listing. You know, we've been mostly chatting about tomorrow as well. And just general wish listing as well. Just some like musings out loud. Actually, since chat is feeling, well, chatty, let's come back to something I mentioned about nearly an hour ago now. And that's about like the next big stream project that we're going to do. So I really enjoyed the Altar of Cain project. I really did. It was long and it was tedious in places. God, those pillars. But I really enjoyed doing it. And I really enjoyed having like a shared project for the stream where we can all contribute and come up with ideas and democratize it a bit and all that stuff. So I wanted to do something like it again, but I couldn't make my mind up on what project I would like to do. Now, I considered making a poll in the community tab, and to be honest, I probably still will make a poll so that viewers of the not stream can also have a say. But since it's a stream project and we're live on stream right now, I thought I would ask you in chat, what sort of terrain project would you like to do or to see me do next for my sort of Ulgish elven board thing? Because I've got some ideas, but I want to get chat's opinion as well, and then we can sort of debate it, and then I'll create a final poll for everyone to vote on in case they couldn't be here for this stream. So the terrain piece I have right now is just the Altar of Cain that we've just finished. That's the only terrain piece I have, and obviously that's now complete. Shadow Forest. Okay, that could be interesting. Get like some Citadel Woods, if they still even sell Citadel Woods. I don't even know if they still sell them. And sort of shadowify them. But I wouldn't know how the heck to shadowify some trees. Like, what do you even do to shadowify some trees? Make them sentient? But that's what effectively normals are. So I wouldn't know where to start with them. But it's an interesting idea, so thank you for your suggestion. It's one thing I can throw out there. So the way I sort of envision this is that this is all set in Ulgish. This is the realm between light and shadow where Slaanesh is imprisoned. And the idea is that it is a collection of maybe not a city type thing, but a region ruled over and sort of shared, excuse me, and kind of power shared between the various elven factions. The Daughters of Cain, the Idnethikin, the Lumineth Realm Lords, the Shadow, whatever's of Malerion, and Tyrion's thing. So that's the setting. We're in Ulgish. So all the elves sort of hold a measure of sway in this region. And probably you would think that it might be kind of like a combined sort of shrine area, a combined sort of pantheon. So almost, you can imagine almost that Slaanesh is imprisoned up there, and then down below, sort of on the sort of like an elven necropolis where the affairs of the gods are. So you've got the Temple to Cain, a shrine to Matlin, a dual vault for Tyrion and Teclis, something like that. So it's any sort of terrain that I can then sort of like the elvify. That's not a word, but I'm going to go with it. Sort of to dedicate to different elven things. It's not that the realms are like tectonic plates. But that could be an interesting idea, because I want to create like a board with all this terrain on it, and then fight over it and create the Great War for Ulgish, the Elven Civil War. So having it take place with shrines and vaults and maybe even ruins around there all together is what I want. So one of the things that I'd considered, and PG mentioned it a little earlier in chat, is something to do with, say, the Warcry start collecting with the Shattered Storm Vault. So you've got essentially a broken Storm Vault type layout where you've got different statues and vaults and temples, and then they can be dedicated to different gods. However, one of the other things I considered was the Penumbral Storm Vault, like the actual full-on Penumbral Storm Vault kit, because it comes with a Penumbral engine, including the name. And the idea is because it's these two temples that are then joined together by ramps and bridges, is that one of those temples is dedicated to Teclis, and one of those temples is dedicated to Tyrion. So the engine sits on the Teclian side, because it was Teclis' Enlightenment engines that became the Penumbral engines. And on the other side, we have like a shrine to Tyrion. Maybe a throne for the Court of the Blind King, which you can get from another Stormbolt piece of kit, or something like that. Or the Sigmarite Mausoleum, because I love the Mausoleum kit and would like to make an elven graveyard watched over by my old high elf models, who were modelled obviously on the heroes of old. So my statue of Cara Drian or sorry, my Caradrian miniature could be, I could sort of repose it a little bit. Actually, my Caradrian miniature's in my parents' loft now I think about it. But like my Caradrian and my Core Hill could take the places on the entrances as old High Elven heroes of legend. And things like that. So I could do like a mausoleum dedicated to the elves that could not be saved, for example. So the elven souls were pulled out of Slaanesh one by one by one, and some of them were too broken, too far gone to be saved, and so were interred in this mausoleum, watched over by statues with the heroes of old. It wouldn't have to be like Slaanesh wouldn't be in the middle of the board, but maybe a giant chain type thing could be interesting. One of the chains of paradox could be interesting in the middle. It wouldn't have to be that the board is split directly. It could be more like a sort of a ellipsoid Parthenon, or Pantheon, where the gods hold sway. So Cain is here, Matlin is here, Tyrion and Teclis sort of straddle down here, Malerian's here, and then the Great Chain is in the middle, or something like that, where only a weapon forged of an elven god could cast it down, where only, say, Tyrion's staff or Heartrender could break it, and the elven gods would never do that. So there's the paradox. I should stress this is AOS, not 40k. So things like Imperium and Eldar are not what I'm going for. So I won't be using like Eldari pieces. Though the like Deathwood Forest, that could be interesting for like a Shadow Forest and Corrupted. Like Shadow Forest could be interesting as opposed to Citadel Woods. That could work. So I hope I've tried to explain sort of what I'm thinking there. I know it's a bit of a messy concept. And how did I pick my first tag coin? Get over here, would you? So purple, reds, golds. Then that was blue. Why did I make that blue? I'm trying to think why I made that blue. I won't do that again. Okay, so just stick to the scheme you know, and do it that way. So yeah, Shrine for Cain. So for Matlin, for example, you could have one of the old Sea Lords. So obviously Sea Lord Acelin is not a thing, but I could get from my High Elves the Lothern Sea Guard champion, and have the Lothern Sea Guard stood atop the pillars. So you've got those spears and the sea drakes on their shields from the Island of Blood kit, and they stand on the pillars or as sentinels over the shrine to Matlin, where at its heart you might have like a Carillium, a very small Carillium, which could be modelled off of, say, the Malevolent Maelstrom. So if you don't like the Malevolent Maelstrom endless spell, at the heart of the temple could be a little swirling vortex of souls, aka a Carillium, where the Idoneth keep their souls after they die, if you like. It's not quite the same as the Eldari Spirit Stone thing, which have Infinity Circuit, but same idea. Like a Carillium soul store type thing in the centre of a temple, flanked on all corners by Seaguard, and I do own Seaguard. So I could put some of them there with maybe something like that. That could be good for Matlin. For Tyrion, it's a bit more difficult because he's the Phoenix King. Oh, he's not the Phoenix King. He's the Avatar of Cain from old, and he's now the Blind King, a superlative warrior struck blind by staring too far long at the realm's edge of Hysh when he went looking for Teclis. And so for the Blind King, I was thinking there's a throne in one of the Stormvault kits. So if I make that temple and nick that throne and put that on a different temple, that could be the court of the Blind King, where Tyrion's throne sits empty as he is off waging war, and then in the corners you might have something on those corners as well. For Teclis, it's easy. Penumbral Engine. Penumbral Engine on the top of a temple, and that's Teclis done. And pair the two together for Tyrion and Teclis. Malerian is a bit more difficult because we haven't seen his range yet. So that's a bit more tricky. to know really what Malerion wants. Something draconic would be great, and I do own the old Malekith on Black Dragon, and it's broke and I can't fix it. It's snapped on both ankles. So theoretically, I could mount the dragon at one end, but that would mean giving up the dragon of my Order Serpentis army, and that would kind of suck. And be a bit of a waste of a Malekith, even though it is Malekith. So I could use my Black Dragon for that. Morathi doesn't need one because I've got Kane, and Morathi's not a god anyway. So those are sort of some of the ideas I had, like a Carillion for Matlam, the Throne of the Blind King, which doesn't exist technically, for Tyrion, a Penumbral engine or an Enlightenment engine for Teclis, and stuff like that. I am getting the Canine Underworld Warband, yes, I pre-ordered them and they're arriving tomorrow. So I have got more Greater Blade Covenant arriving. Excuse me. Right, that should be dry by now because I've been talking too much. This stream's going to go on a bit longer now because I've spent so much time discussing. But yes. So those are just some of the ideas that I came up with, but I don't really know where to go with it. Especially because I don't actually have all the miniatures. Like, some of them are still in my parents' loft. Particularly of note, my Endless Spells. Because I don't use my Endless Spells very much. Like, the Malevolent Maelstrom in particular is garbage, so I would never use it. Or the Suffocating Gravetide, I've used it once as a meme. And you've got the Geminids of Orgish as well, so you could have them sort of as a permanent fixture atop a shrine as a symbol of the duality between the two realms, but the Geminids are also really good, so I don't know if I want to give up my Geminids like that. So those are just some ideas. I thought I'd throw them out there. If people have any of them that they think sound particularly either feasible or cool. The Cainites do not have endless spells. Daughters of Cain and Ideneth Deepkin were invented before endless spells were invented. So the Daughters and the Deepkin do not have endless spells. They would be super useful, particularly if they were Ideneth ones, to have endless spells, but they don't, I'm afraid. Because they are too old by about 2 to 4 months. They're too old. Come on, Hag Queen. Let's get you trucking along. Lion statue. There isn't really a good lion to use. There are sphinxes all over the place. So like in the Stormvault kits, there are like Griffhound, like sphinxes. So the sphinxes have got like birds' heads to be more like Griffhounds. So there are those, but then you need to find a lion's head to put on them. Or actually, you need several, and I would not know where to begin on getting one. I wouldn't say it would be too much, just I don't know what that would represent in any particular way, because the only thing it could represent is the White Lion of Crace. And the White Lion of Crace was historically the guard of the Phoenix King. And so it would be most represented, ironically, with Malerion, because he was the last Phoenix King. Well, the Eternity King, technically. The High Elves did have a White Lion chariot, yes. And I do own it. I do own a White Lion chariot. Where it is, who the heck knows? I know I own it, but it's buried somewhere, probably in my parents' loft. Though I could get the lions out of it, I suppose. But again, what would I use them for? Aside from as like replacements on Tyrion's like sphinxes, which could be cool, but there isn't much purpose for them because there's none of the gods really resonate with a lion anymore. Well, at the moment, we'll see what Tyrion ends up with. Because the lion, bear in mind, is actually quite a Sigmarite symbol. If you look at the Sigmarite Dace, it's lions' heads on the pillars. It's lions' heads. So it's more of an Azerite symbol, the lion. I think, does Hammerhal have a lion on its banner? I might have that wrong. I probably have that wrong, but I feel like Hammerhal has a lion on its banner or something. Okay, that's the flesh. Done. Excellent. Ironic. That was part of the reason I did this Arwen project, was to learn to paint flesh, but good grief, I don't enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with painting it. And on the Idneth and Namarti, it's actually quite easy because it's such an open space. Because the Idneth are a lot bulkier and either are wearing full shirts or a completely bare chest in the case of the Namarti, so it's very easy to paint their flesh. Daughters are just more finicky because A, are a lot slimmer, and B, just the way their armor's put together. Yeah, the realm is, if you like, sort of a sub-dimension that exists right between light and shadow. So light and shadow are like the sun and the moon almost. They orbit each other all the time, if you like. But right in the centre, where the two sort of cross over, is Ulgish, the hidden gloaming. And this sort of twilight realm is where Slaanesh is kept, trapped dead between the two, as in sort of a paradoxical trap. That's how it works. So, yes, that is exactly what Ulgish is. It's a realm between light and shadow. Sort of a hybrid of the two, hence the bright white pillars and the dark purple stone for the temple that I did before, and I'll keep to that colour scheme going forward. Okay. It's hard to describe Ulgish. Like, it seems to be like a mix of endless twilight, but also the architecture, being elven, is still is mostly quite bright, and the terrain seems quite dark. So it's a really odd mix, and it's certainly not orange. It's certainly not orange. It's weird, is Ulgish. Also, I just realised I didn't put my light on this entire. I've been streaming for like an hour and a half, and I didn't put my light on. That's very professional. I mean, it doesn't really affect the stream all that much, but it does make my life a little easier to do that. So I'm going to do that now. And that tells me that I didn't miss any of it on the Hag Queen. Good. Good. A forest between the two where one side is bright and leafy and the other is dead and gloomy. Yeah, that's not what I expect Ulgish is like. You'd probably find that you'd find it tree by tree, where some of them would be they'd be all infused with a mix of light and shadow magic. So you might find that some of the leaves glow white and some of them are pitch black dark. Because it's not life and death, it's light and dark. So it's not about being alive and the like, it's about being light and dark. So you've got to be careful not to tread on Alariel and Agash's toes as well. I like the idea of it, but I think you do it sort of leaf by leaf rather than like half and half. I don't think it's quite like that. It's not like the board. It's not like a line where Ulgu ends and Hish begins. It's a completely unique sub-dimension, all of its own. Ulgish is weird. It's beautiful as a concept, and it really, really works for the fluff. But God, Ulgish is weird. In fact, I might go and try and find later some descriptions of Ulgish, see what I can do. What could be described in the Wrath of the Ever-Chosen book? What do you mean? Check the Wrath of the Ever-Chosen book for what? Ulgish. I do have Wrath of the Ever-Chosen down there, but I sort of need a bit of a hint as to what I'm supposed to be looking for in it. Oh yeah, Archaon goes there. Oh God, yeah, Archaon goes to Tactica, you mega spanner. Archaon goes to Ulgish to get Slanesh. Oh, I'm being silly, right? I will have a look at that in a moment. Just let me finish this red. My thoughts on Wrath of the Ever-Chosen was... I questioned why I bought it. Now, I know that sounds really harsh, because I really like the plot of the book, and what Catacross does, and how Archaon, like, completely trounces Catacross at the end. Sorry for the spoilers. I think it really sets up Archaon very nicely, and sets up the situation between Death and Chaos. That Archaon now can't take his eye off the ball, even though he needs his eye as far off the ball as possible, because he wants to go and get Slanesh and conquer the realms and diddly diddly dee. So the plot of it, I think, was really good. But if you weren't a Chaos player, then there was no point in buying it, because no one was going to use its unique realm rules to play in the 8 points for pretty much any reason. So unless you were a Chaos player who wanted all the new factions, some of which were very good, as I'm told, particularly Nurgle, and I really enjoyed the Varangard faction. I really enjoyed that faction conceptually. In terms of actual value, you bought it as a storybook rather than anything else. It wasn't a campaign book where you could refight the campaign. I don't remember there being any battle plans in there. It just left me a little like, oh, that's what I bought. Like, I liked what I got, but unless I was a Chaos player, it gave me a nice story. Which is fine, but I don't think that's quite how they... Well, it is how they build it, because they had to do all the promo articles, but I don't know, unless I'll buy the next Soul Wars style book like Wrath of the Ever-Chosen, but I'll buy it because I know I'm going to get some important lore in it, not because I actually think it's going to be useful to me. Well, if you've randomly joined the stream, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're currently, as you can see in the top left, painting a Hag Queen for the Daughters of Cain. We're having a chat about some projects that I'm working on, because I wanted to do a terrain project for my Warhammer. Granted, you assumedly know what Warhammer is if you're here, but if you're not, then, well, prepare to learn a lot very quickly as I talk. But, yeah, so we're just sort of debating these sorts of things at the minute. Oh God, I've been painting for years. In fact, it's coming up on 12 years since I joined this hobby and painted my first miniature. I've only really been anywhere remotely close to good for about 2 years because, well, at the time I was a child. When I got into this at first, I was a child and terrible. But I've been painting for about 11 or 12 years now. Oh yeah, everyone sort of starts off being not very good. I think I should caveat that my experience of being terrible is just normal. But I took a long time to like learn the basics of like the techniques that we use these days, and I don't use most of them. I sort of just do it my way as I go along. So I'm not, yeah, I'm still kind of bad now. I'm only remotely close to good, and well, I'm not really that close to good at all. I just get by with my own techniques as far as I can, and they look reasonably presentable. They're certainly not good, certainly compared to most actual hobbyists out there. I suspect that my painting is definitely on the medium to low end of the quality spectrum. And I've really improved, really, thanks to doing all this stuff on stream. All this like live painting, getting advice, and learning techniques from chat has actually really helped me with my painting, I would say. So I think it's one of those things. For some reason you got the mausoleum thing and some Warcry right now. Fair enough. It's a cool set of kit. I really like the mausoleum. And the Warcry like Shattered Ruin stuff is cool. It's not for me, but it's cool. Do I get bored? Yeah, yes, no. I don't paint consistently. Like I'm one of those hobbyists who paints very much in bursts. So during the original lockdown in the UK that started up in March, I went absolutely crazy with my painting, and I really loved doing it. But for the 6 months before that, I hadn't touched a miniature with a paintbrush for about like 3 months. I absolutely love doing painting and what we call conversions, where I change the models from their base form. I love doing it, and I really, really enjoy working on them, but I don't do it all the time. It comes second to my job. It comes second to making my regular content. I enjoy it, but it's certainly not something that I would say is my biggest passion. Yeah, and everyone's experience is different. Like I knew I had a big pile of stuff when we went into lockdown, and so I was up for painting because I was a bit isolated from hobbying because I hadn't had time to hobby during my pre the past few months. I had no time at all to hobby, so I was really in the mood for it. But that's obviously not going to be true of everyone's situation. So it really varies depending on who you are and what you do. Some people barely ever paint, and some people just paint for the sheer thrill of the thing. apologies, I just need to focus up a little bit here. Oh, I'm not accurate enough for Daughters of Cain anymore. Sorry, I will get to the question in a minute. I just need to make sure I've actually painted the right bit. Hang on. Okay, I've missed a smidge. So that's up there, and then that's up there. Okay, so it needs a little bit of tidying up, but I've done the red armor for the Hag Queen. So that's that done. I just need to tidy up a little bit between a couple of bits of armor that I've over painted. So I'm just going to tidy that up. How big is the difference in how you see and feel about miniatures today than when you were... Back then, well, I've been into miniatures wargaming for about, as I say, 12 years now. And I've never really... I only fell out of love with the hobby for about 3 months in that entire time, and when I did, I started this YouTube channel, and that completely revitalized me. My attitudes change in terms of I really like painting now when I get time, and I really like the storyline of the games now. Back then, I was much more interested in nothing but the gaming. So I suppose and I like now putting a bit of personality to my army. So one of the things that I'm doing at the moment, this is what we call a conversion, where the model is supposed to look like this. This is what the normal model looks like, and this is one of mine that I own from 4 or 5 years ago. But the one I'm working on at the moment, you can see in the top left corner, looks like that. So I've changed her around quite a lot, and I've changed her from a base form, which is what we call a conversion. And I've really come to enjoy doing conversions and doing painting projects a lot more than I used to. So I like giving my miniatures a bit of personality, and I'm not going to say I feel that my armies are sentient or anything like that, and I've got a personal, deep-rooted attachment to them. That's going too far. But I really put pride into my work now a lot more than I used to. I painted my models before to get them on the table. I paint my models now to make them look nice and then put them on the table, which is part of the thing doing YouTube. It used to be no one cared about what my army looked like, because all I was playing with was other people of my age who were in the hobby at the same time as I was, and we all sucked. Now, I'm putting my models on the internet. I'm painting them on the internet live sometimes, as I'm doing now. I'm doing live painting, and so I care a lot more about what they look like, and I put more effort in as a result, because I want them to look good and not just utter trash on the internet. So I wouldn't say that my opinions have changed, but exactly how is hard to quantify. And I appreciate this is probably coming from. It almost sounds like I'm getting a Snap Miniatures gaming survey from someone who's not in the hobby, but you know, it's fine. I need to do more conversions. You know, I convert like every fifth model I do. Like I mess around with almost every single unit I work on. Like certainly nowadays, I try and do as much conversion and kit bash work as I can. It's not obviously all good, but I try to do as much of it as I can. The Godsworn that Shane S is referring to are the Godsworn Hunt. They're the Dark Oath Warcry warband, one of the more recent ones. I can't convert every model. I have limits. I have to do certain things with my life. I don't have time to convert every single miniature. Thank you. I have other priorities, and I don't have enough spares to convert every miniature, even if I wanted to. I don't have enough spare parts to make meaningful conversions, and I'm not just squirreling away money on huge amounts of kits that I will never use. It's not my thing. I'll use spares from what I own rather than, you know, trying to come up with random nonsense conversions out of nowhere. It's not my style. Dark Oath. Yeah, it's one of those that when you realise it's Dark Oath, when you realise that, it actually makes a lot more sense. And to be honest, I didn't really learn it until I read Scourge of Fate, the Robbie McNiven novel with the Varangard, because in that, one of his main allies is a Dark Oath War Queen, and she sort of makes an oath in the battle, we shall not step back, forward for chaos, and something like that anyway. And so I realized, oh, Dark Oath. Oh. Ding. Took me a bit. Took me a minute. Okay, this 2.5 hour plan is heading swiftly for the bin because we've been on for 1 hour and 45 and I've not even finished the base coat. This plan is headed straight for the bin. But I think we've had some really productive conversations, and if we get back to the terrain project at some point and sort of come up with some other ideas for the terrain, just to get some ideas to throw out into a poll, then absolutely, I think we've got some really good ideas there. So yeah, I think it's been a really productive. It's been a bit slow, but I think it has still been productive nonetheless. Right, Nagaroth Knight, where are you? Nagaroth Knight is there. Nagaroth Knight. Let's get this cloak done. Yeah, some kits are hard to convert. Like I've actually really struggled sometimes with converting models. I really struggled to convert my Tau because there's no kits from other armies that I can borrow from, and a lot of their weapons are very exclusive to them. So I've actually struggled with conversions for my Tau. My Orcs I can convert every 5 minutes if I try. But my Tau I've really struggled. Whereas my Elves, because I've got such a wide range of kits across several factions, I've got so many spares now that I can just start tinkering and I will come up with something. So I get that there are difficulties depending on what you're actually using and what kits you have available, and complexity is difficult as well, like knowing what sort of conversion is appropriate that doesn't look completely unrealistic. And so there's a lot to it. There is. Orcs are very well suited to conversions. I learned my conversion craft with orcs. That's where I sort of did all my original terrible conversions, was with orcs. I've never done Gay Vasa, no, that's what they're called, but Gay Vasa. I've never done any Gay Vasa conversions because there's no rules for them. If there were rules for them, I would absolutely do some Gay Vasa conversions. But then they would put out a Gay Vasa conversion kit as well, so I wouldn't have to. It's one of those awkward ones. I wouldn't say orcs are simple to convert. There's just more conversion options available for them. I think because of all that looting. I think that's. I wouldn't say that they're easy, because most of them just are terrible. They would play very much like a Fire Warrior squad, but actually better than a Fire Warrior squad. That's the thing about Fire Warriors versus Gay Vasa. Fire Warriors have better armor, but Gay Vasa have better fighting stats, because they're guardsmen rather than Tau, so their weapon skill would be better. Their leadership would probably be worse, and their armor save would be worse, but they'd be able to fight melee. They'd probably have sergeant options who might actually use a melee weapon, like maybe a stun baton or something rather than a chainsword. So there's an argument that in some ways Gay Vasa would be better than Fire Warriors if they were given the same guns. Okay, and the front tabard. Just got to avoid this chain. Don't know why there's blooming chains on the front. There's no good reason for it. Okay, I'm going to tidy the flesh up again as a result of this. Ah well, no big deal. These things happen. The orcs are certainly interesting. I think the orc. I don't really remember the orcs of fantasy all that well. What they were like and how they differed from 40k orcs. But certainly the orcs of AOS remind me a lot of 40k orcs, just more punching, less looting. If you can get such a thing as more punching with orcs. Than less techno wizardry, more actual wizardry. Okay, So that's the purple done. Just need to tidy up the flesh on the legs again. I believe the next book is Orlok, the House of Artifice. I believe it's, or is it Van Saar? Oh god, I can never keep Necromunda straight. I know it's not Delac. I believe it's either Orlok or Van Saar. I want to say Van Saar. But I can never keep my Necromunda straight in my head, so... Oh, excuse me. It's Orlok. Okay, thank you. Thank you for reminding me, because I'm an idiot. Okay, we're making some good progress now. Because this one obviously is a lot smaller than the flipping altar. We're able to move at a much greater pace now. Sorry, I know we got a lot distracted by that person who popped in. Thank you very much for actually popping in at random and asking those questions. It was a really interesting discussion, so thank you for that, if you're still here. But... if we could just pivot back for a minute to this terrain stuff then. So, here's what I want to make the straw poll. I want to do the Carillium Temple for Matlin. That's one. And I could also get my hands on a Gloomtide Shipwreck and sort of add to it with like a Gloomtide like half either side. That could work. So that's option one. Option two I was thinking was the Twin Temple of Tyrion and Teclis. That's a lot of T's. There was... the other option was that Shadow Forest, or like that mixed forest type thing that someone mentioned. And as a fourth option, I was thinking... I don't want to do Malerian yet. So they were sort of the main three. But if people have got other suggestions that I've forgotten, or they want to expand on what I've just said, or just take things in another direction, please do let me know, because I want to get a straw poll out tonight or tomorrow for what we're going to do as the next project. And then once I get that vote in, I'll give people about a week, and then I'll make the next purchase, and then we'll work on that over the next few weeks of streams. And it will be a lot less streams. Oh, the Mausoleum. Yes, the Mausoleum as well. Thank you. The Mausoleum. That was the other one. If people have missed anything else, or I've forgotten something, then please do tell me now, while I just paint some silver. I'll paint some silver. That's lead belcher? Yes, it is. I'll probably put some blood for the blood god on this as well at the end. Rude. I mean, fair, but rude. Just trying to make me say the twin temples of Tyrion and Teclis a lot. And the other thing actually to think about that we could do is an actual, storm vault. What if we do an actual full-on storm vault, and what could we put in that storm vault? How would that work? What could we put in there? Could that be where Slaaneish's chain, that is made of pure light and shadow, has its links, its actual material links buried in a storm vault? Also, why has someone gone all cornate on us? problem is making a giant chain would be impossible without green stuff, and I do not have any skill with green stuff. That's not even like, oh, I'm just a bit naff at it. It's no, I can't use green stuff. I suck so hard at green stuff. I've tried, I suck. I'm making a giant pile of chain links that are made of incorporeal light and shadow. No way, Pedro. No way, Pedro. Because I think... Oh, I meant the technical pain. That's all I meant. Oh, you had an idea. Oh, all the best plans can't start with someone having an idea. To be fair, that's where the entire temple came from. So, go on, what's your idea? I have no idea. I've heard you mention the word milliput, if you are who I think you are. But I have no idea how to actually use the blimmin' thing. Sets like resin doesn't mean anything to me, but yes, fair point. It's just one of those things, because I've never used it before, I wouldn't even know where to start, and I wouldn't want to be doing that live, because that would just be, hey, watch me fail for 4 hours, which you might find fun, I won't. Okay, that's the silver. And gold? Are we ready for gold? I think we're ready for gold. So gold. Failure is part of the learning experience, but doing failure live on air is pointless. And at the end of the day, I decide what I stream. So, sorry. By a large length of black metal chain, but yeah, how do you keep it stood up? Wait a minute. How do these masks work? Are they like full face masks? Yeah, they are full face masks. Good. I want the horns to be gold as well. Yeah, I probably do. Yeah, I probably do. And then I'll just edge highlight them when the time comes. Okay, fair enough. That's cool. So what I think I'll do then for the poll, which I'll put up after this stream and then leave up for uh, like give people like a week to vote, is and then like promo it a couple of times, is a vote for either the Carillium Temple of the Carillium Shrine to Matlan, so a temple with a Carillium on. I'll put up the Twin Temples of Tyrion and Teclis, aka Alliteration Central. I'll put up the Graveyard and use a bunch of old elven models to sort of like stand sentinel over the souls that couldn't be saved. And the forest idea, like the twin forest of Ulgu and Hish tied together, which will be the least interesting project, I think, to watch me work on, because it would just consist of, hey, I'm going to paint some trees now, and I'm going to paint them some different colours. It would be a bit of a boring project to watch, but it would add to the world building of the entire project for the board. I'm not going to go straight into that chain vault project. It's a cool idea, and I might do one eventually. But it would be so difficult to like make the chain. I'm sure that's what you're going to go and research, but it's just something that I wouldn't have a clue where to start. So I'm not going to put it up for vote the first time. Still, I think that was the main sort of the secondary objective of tonight, was to sort of get some ideas down that I could make for the poll, and I'm happy that we've done that. Okay, I just want to tidy up the red and the technicals later, but that's almost done now. Just got to do some of the trim on the armor, and then it's one color to finish the base coat, and tidying up, of course, because I always need to tidy up after I do some work. This is the one reason I dislike Daughters of Cain. They're so blimmin' fiddly. Basically have to paint everything twice because they're so fiddly. Okay, that's all going to be tidied, but at least I've got the detailing on. Okay. I've just got that band on her right arm to do, which again I'm going to make a mess of, but I need to go back and I think tidy up some flesh anyway, so it could be worse. know gold makes a mess, but, well, it's one of those things, I can't really help it. Oh, I can do this ring here safely and then just tide it because I haven't painted the brown yet. Bum 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 ba da do 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 do. I've got a bit of purple and black and stuff. Once she's glued onto a base, that can be tidied up. Well, actually, I'll do it before I glue it on, but stuff up because I've had to hold her in my hand, which is annoying, but we are where we are. Okay, gold is done, so I've just got brown. It's the last base coat colour, and the rest of it is all just tidying up the base coat, and then we can, well, I don't think we can start assembly, but we'll certainly be almost there. So maybe that, well, 3 hours is probably what to aim for now. 9:30 might be a decent target. There. Couldn't find it for a second. Doomball Brown. Do like Doomball Brown, it's good paint. Almost. There. Oh, straps. Little leather straps. For the pauldron? No, pauldron's going on your shoulders. What game do you want GW to bring back? I'd love to see Battlefleet Gothic back in miniature. Because I think the design team could do some amazing stuff with all the new technology they have to make new ships. So Battlefleet Gothic, and I missed a bit with the gold, darn it. Battlefleet Gothic would probably be my choice to get in, back into miniature, because they've already got Titanicus back. Gorka Morka would be great, it would, but I think that's hoping against hope. Battlefleet Gothic, because of the popularity of the video games, at least stands a chance of returning. That's personally where I am on it, but they have done a good job of reintroducing a bunch of classics, like obviously Blood Bowl never really went away but got a proper reboot. Necromunda's back, Titanicus is back, Aeronautica's back. They've done a really good job of getting the old classics back under a new coat of paint, which is always great to see. You love to see it. Okay, there's going to be a lot of tidying up just around areas I did with gold. But that's normal because gold's a messy, messy paint. All metallics are just messy. What video games? To be honest, I don't have the setup to do video gaming as a rule of thumb. My PC can hold up streaming and all that stuff now because I've got good Wi-Fi, but I'd need to get like a mouse and a proper keyboard and all that stuff to actually PC game. And I don't own any consoles because I just wouldn't have the time to invest in them to make them worthwhile in the 3 to 6 year lifespan they would have. So I don't really have any plans to get any, to be honest. I like watching a lot of them, like Blood Bowl 2 and things like that. I enjoy watching games, but I don't play because I just don't have the time really, or the setup required to make it happen. Right, so what do I need to tidy up? Purple, red, black, flesh. Is that it? Purple, red, black, flesh? I think so, yeah. Yeah, purple, red, black, flesh. Purple's easy, because actually no, purple and black should be last, because that's where I've sort of been holding on to her, and that's where she's been getting marked. Because I've been holding on to her. Apologies, headphone users, that probably wasn't particularly comfortable. Okay. We're getting somewhere now. So is that the flesh fully tidy? Almost. Just gotta get this arm neatened up. Sorry, this is the slow bit, just the getting it all neat and tidy of the base coat, because I'm not very tidy. Too much. Yep, okay, flesh is tidy, I think. Yep, flesh is tidy. So now, I'm going to tidy up the red, then I'm going to tidy up the purple, then I'm going to tidy up the black, and then the base coat will be done. So red, this won't take long at all. In theory, at least, it won't take long at all. Yeah, that's that. Shoulder. This is the part I made a real mess of. There we go. Okay, red is tidy. Now we do the purple. Put that over there so I don't get tempted. Right, next. Nagaroth Knight. This shouldn't take too long. There we go. Okay, purple. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Purple is tidy. And then finally, to finish off, you just have to redo the bits of black boots and things like that, where either I marked them or I, rubbed the paint off by holding it in my hands, which is not ideal, but that happens with some paints, particularly when you use them as a base coat rather than putting them over an undercoat. That does happen. So, but it happens less to metallic, so I'll hold it by the blade while I do this. Come on, come on, come on. Let's get this nice. And sorted. Beautiful. So there we go. The Hag Queen is base coated. That's roughly where we are. I'll just get out of shot a little bit. See if I can get a little in focus. Probably not. But she is base coated. So at this point we are on to washes. And I'm going to do this in a couple of stages. But I'm going to take a very quick break just because I want to refresh my drink. Because my drink's been finished for about half an hour and I need to reload it. Because my lips are getting really, really dry. So I'm going to get a fresh drink very quickly, and then we're going to do the washes, the highlights, of which there will be a few but not loads, and then the final assembly. So we're nearly there. We've got the legwork really out of the way now. So we've just got a series of washes to do, and then we will wrap things up. So I'll take a quick break. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, and we are back. I've realised during the break that I completely forgot the shield because I'm an idiot. So I'm going to have to rewind a little bit and do the shield. But I'll do that bit off screen. It's a bit of a non-issue. I'll do it off screen. Sorry about that. But we should carry on. We will carry on, and that's what we're going to do right now. So I need my Recklin Flesh Shade. Yeah. I realise that shield does need to be done, but I just left it all off in a corner because it's painted a different colour because it's my Ideneth stuff. Like, it's supposed to be painted blue and all that, but because of the angle that I just sort of left everything out, I realised it was behind everything, so I didn't see it until I stood up, which was rather silly of me. Well done, me. Bill Bailey, blimey, heck, that's fair enough. I mean, he's a relatively successful comedian. If I were related to him, then that would be okay, fine. I've had far worse insults thrown at me over my hair, so you really do need to try harder if you're looking for an insult. Have you thought of using a miniatures holder? Yeah, I've considered it, but then I think, well, actually, I just hold the miniatures by the base 95% of the time. So it never really matters. And if I'm doing models on Shattered Dominions like my Lumineth, then, well, it's easy enough to tidy up some shoes. Like, shoes are very easy to tidy up because I just paint them one colour, black, and then they're done. So it would help for the models on bases where I hold them by the base. But if they're in like the actual holder, then that doesn't really help. I need to paint that bit eventually. I have to keep lifting it, twisting it, reclamping it, and all that stuff. So at that point, it doesn't actually solve the problem. It just adds another step to the problem. Okay, that's easy enough. The one joy about painting flesh, which I do enjoy, is that when you actually do get it done, it looks really nice. Because it's a very simple colour scheme I do for my daughters again and my elves in general. It's just pallid witch flesh, Ryken flesh shade, pallid witch flesh again as like an over highlight. So it really doesn't, it's really quite an easy one. Does it really make that huge a difference? I'm not saying you're wrong, it's just I've never seen the point of it. Because if a model's on a base, then I'm just going to hold it by the base. If it's not on a base, then I'm just having to clamp bits that I've already painted because I can't just blue tack it. So, I don't know. I can see the appeal. Oh, excuse me, sorry. I just don't know how much it applies to me. Tend to drop the model. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I've done that a fair few times. Not tonight, but more than once. Particularly if I'm painting small bits like shields, I do have a bad habit of dropping them. But I mainly drop stuff during the building process where I need all the loose parts. Once I've got it painted, or once I've got it assembled and I'm into painting, generally I don't drop stuff. That's not to say it doesn't happen. It's happened tonight once. But it's rare for me to drop models. Oh yeah, I'm just reading that comment there about stores and costs. Yeah, no stories. This hobby is not a cheap hobby no matter how you get it. But if you can make it a little cheaper on yourself, then all power to you. Because those stockists will stay in business, allowing them to buy more products from GW to sell on, and they'll still make a good enough profit that they'll stay in business. So yeah, absolutely all power to you. Okay, I'll use Butt for the Butt God to finish that. Okay, that's the gold. Well, that's the Hag Queen's gold. Your hand stabilization. Oh, fair enough. I mean, I find that, well, I have a weirdly, well, I say I have a steady hand. I have a mostly steady hand, as long as, like, particularly if I rest my hand in a certain way, I don't really notice, but I do see your logic. I do. I see the logic. It seems like a bit of a waste of 10 or 15 quid for me, or whatever a model holder costs. I don't even know what it costs, but I feel like it's like 10 or 15 quid, and it just feels like a waste of 10 or 15 quid that I could spend on, you know, more paints or put towards more models. I don't even know what it costs. The holder. Oh, they're only a fiver. Oh, fair enough. Hello, new person. Welcome to the stream. I hope that you enjoy your stay. I mean, I can't guarantee I'll be talking the entire time, but I hope you enjoy your time here on Tactica Imperialis. And if you want to stick around, you can subscribe. I hate doing subscribe promos, so I'm not going to. But you can join the channel's Discord server. Just scroll up a bit in chat and you might be able to find it. And tomorrow I've got a lore video coming out, which I think people are going to enjoy, because people generally seem to enjoy this species when I talk about them in videos. So that should be a fun little video for you. And we've also got the Snarkathon for the reveal stream tomorrow that's happening in the channel server, if people would like to get involved with that, because otherwise there'll be people here that weren't here when I did that last promo, so I'm going to do that promo again. So yeah, there's plenty of things you can find here on Tactica Imperialis. We've got painting, we've got lots and lots of lore, we've got Adeptus Podcastus, which is probably where about 85% of people know me from. Well, I say that, like, you should think that logically everyone who's heard of Remlays should theoretically know who I am from Adeptus Podcastus, but they don't. So it's a weird one. It was quite funny, actually. On the most recent podcast, we had Chapter Master Valrak, which is a really interesting show, great show. You could go and watch it on Remlays' channel. But there was a comment sort of like, "Oh, Tactica Imperialis, I loved your work in TTS." Like, I wasn't in TTS. Oh, wait, that was Remlays. Sorry. It's just, oh, mate, sorry. The lore video, you'll have to find out. I always leave a spoiler or a hint in the previous lore video's outro for those who stick around to the end. So you may be able to piece together what you think it's about from the Skitarii lore video outro, because, you know, gotta get that viewer retention rate. Maybe we'll stay to the end. I love YouTube, but I hate YouTube. I hate playing the YouTuber. It's a weird combination of things. Like, I love doing this stuff, but all the little things like, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram. I don't even have an Instagram account and all this stuff. Yeah, promo work is not my strong suit. I enjoy doing this stuff, but I hate doing promos. I would be terrible at wrestling. Never mind the fact that I'm not up to it physically, but I'd be terrible at promos. Coelia Green Shade for the blade, because it's supposed to be a crystal touch type thing. Which can be also passed off as the Blade of Cain enchantment. The Rune of Cain, sorry. So, you know, that's fine. must resist wrestling joke. I mean, to be honest, like, I'm surprised that more people haven't realised that Rem and I both make wrestling jokes, like almost every podcast. Between Roman Reigns push jokes and just the way I talk now, talking about like jobbing people out and promos and things like that. I really have just incorporated wrestling lingo into my vocabulary quite heavily. It's weird. People are like, wait, Remley's is into wrestling? It's like, so am I. Does no one notice this? Like, you do realise that some of the biggest wrestlers in the world are Warhammer fans, like Samoa Joe and Shayna I will rip your arm off Baszler, who walks around sometimes in a wrestling gear with corn symbols on it. I'm not even joking. Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of crossover between a lot of like nerd fandoms and also wrestling, because wrestling is kind of half nerd fandom, half jock fandom. It's a weird old mess, is wrestling. But hey, it's a bit silly, but you know, I quite enjoy it. They still do that. Yeah, there's also D&D. There's a lot. Yeah, D&D as well. And obviously, there's people like Ultra Hard Man Vin Diesel, I believe, has dabbled with the hobby. And of course, the late, great Robin Williams, I believe, also had hobby connections as well. There's a lot of people play Warhammer that you don't realise are actually hobbyists, just on the quiet. And then there's flipping Superman as well, Henry Cavill, who's gone all one of us. And one thing I found very funny, this is a very British thing, but Jeremy Vine, the Jeremy Vine Show, which is on BBC Radio 2, one of the most popular, stations on the radio. And he got given like a frame of Space Marines at some point and was just like, so what do I do with this exactly? Because it came up on his radio show. And I don't quite know how it happened. And it was just like, the whole barbecue was just like, one of us. It was just like, it was quite funny actually, given that it's the Jeremy Vine Show. Like this is where we chat about like social commentary and politics and big issues and apparently Warhammer. Which is just glorious. Yeah, I forgot exactly how connected Vin Diesel was to D&D and the like. I always forget exactly. But I did remember he was involved in nerdcore and the like, or whatever you'd prefer to call hobbying in general. Yeah, Shayna Baszler's one of Ronda Rousey's sort of coach. She's one of the 4 horsewomen of MMA. She came across the WWE a short time before or after Rousey, and has spent the last couple of years annihilating half the roster, particularly in her time in NXT. But she often will wear like chaos symbols to the rings, like her shorts or her tights or whatever will have like the mark of Khorne or the mark of chaos on them, the Star of Chaos even. And it's like you notice, it's like the first time you notice it's like, is that? No, surely not. And then you realise it is and you're like, oh my god, I love you even more. In a completely platonic and you're just an awesome nerd kind of way. Not like that, don't worry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe there's been several things that Henry Cavill has done of late, as well as revealing himself to be a massive hobby nerd. But hey, if we can get flipping Markiplier to come on a Adeptus Podcasters, who knows who we'll get next? Because I always said, I remember when we started the podcast, I remember being asked very early on in podcasters' history, who's that your dream guest? And Rem said Samoa Joe, who is a wrestler, a very charismatic wrestler actually, and actually just a generally all-round sound bloke by the sounds of him. And he said Samoa Joe. And I said at the time Total Biscuit, because Total Biscuit was still alive at that time. And whatever some in the gaming community may think of him, I sort of, like, Total Biscuit was my way into, like, exploring gaming on YouTube. Like, his review of Warhammer 40k Space Marine was kind of the first bit of proper, like, YouTuber stuff I ever really got exposed to. He was like one of the first YouTubers I was ever exposed to properly was TB. And so he was always the one guest I wanted to get on the podcast before he died. So that's all. So I know obviously there's connections to the hobby like that, and yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to sound all depressed, but it is the thing. And yes, we'll get on to happy things like breaking the internet with Henry Cavill making Custodes. Yes, we'll keep things positive. I'm sure Jenna was. I don't know. I just never really followed Jenna's work before meeting TB, or before like learning of TB, and I sort of got to know Jenna through co-optional and well, the Snarkathons that I have so liberally ripped the name from for our watch-alongs. So maybe, but I don't know. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe. Excuse me. What watch do I need next? Actually, I just need to put some Druki Violet on the base. That's not so bad. Druki Violet. I mean, yes, asking guests is kind of like asking someone on. There's no harm in asking, absolutely. Like, I've invited people who've just not replied to me before. So it was a while ago, but one guest I actually invited way back that never got back to me because, well, I was tiny at the time, and I think it was Mini Wargamer Jay. So Jay, formerly of Mini Wargaming, was someone that I invited on the show a long time ago that never got back to me. There's no harm in asking, absolutely. It's just one of those things, because I know that some people say that we never rotate our guests or get new people on the show. And that's kind of true, but we've got most of the major YouTubers who will work with people and or that our audience want us to work with. We've got most, if not all of them. So at this point in history, it's mostly is inviting back old people that we had before, or when we get them, and I think there is one in the works, getting people like Black Library to come on the show. So when we have had Josh Reynolds, Gav Thorpe, ADB, David Geimer, they've been fantastic shows. And of course we had Duncan that one time, which was a lovely show. I loved it when we got Duncan on the show, even if we didn't have him for very long. Getting Duncan was amazing. So it would be nice, but obviously you've then it's just getting time out of people's day, really. And things like getting time out of people who are doing, particularly to use Shayna and Joe, who are working shows nearly every day. Certainly when the pandemic's sort of calmed down and crowds are back, they'll be running house shows most days. So getting 2 hours to do a show with them would be madness, if not impossible. Right, I'm going to start some assembly now. I'm going to put the base together because I've done all of the components for the base. I'm not going to highlight anything on the base. Okay, so that's the main part of the base done. I'm just going to stick the 2 grass tufts either side of the hammer. They've still got blue tack on them, hold on. I'm just building all this now because that way it'll be absolutely set dry when I come to attach the queen herself later. I'm just making my life easier for later by attaching the base components now, and it'll make it easier for the queen to stand on the base at the end. Okay, so that is the completed base with the hammer and the grass tufts, and you can't really see it too well, but you've also got the sort of ground that I've done on my Lumineth bases on there as well. So while that dries, I'm going to do the highlights on the Hag Queen, and then we'll be finished. Granted, that half 9 tag has slipped past me, and I still haven't done the bleeding shield, but I'll do that off screen because, well, starting something from nothing just because I've missed a bit will be annoying and I can't be bothered. So I'm going to do that off screen and I'll tweet it out later. So highlights, I need core Mephiston red. I've already used core red. This is Mephiston. Just to highlight the red for the armor and the such. Not the blood, I'm going to use the technical paint for that since I now own that technical paint. Okay. And the shoulder. I'll admit, yeah, our coverage of Blood Bowl has definitely not been much because none of us play it. And the problem that we always have with specialist games is finding people who play it because a lot of the YouTubers that we know don't. And that's particularly true for the tabletop. Like, generally, we'll talk about what the models are like, but we can't talk about the gameplay impact because we haven't got a clue. And it's why getting time to talk about Sigmar is sometimes a bit tricky because whilst I can talk about Sigmar, you'll notice that the coverage of Sigmar is me usually gushing a bit about the models, but never getting to do much chance to do much else because I'm the only one who plays it most of the time. Whereas with 40k, we all play it, or at least I and the guest will play it, even if Remlaze isn't playing it at the time. And so we can always talk about it in a general sense. But with things like Blood Bowl, Titanicus to an extent, Aeronautica as well, generally, aside from the models look really nice, and I like some of these design features, there isn't much more to say without getting a dedicated guest who knows that stuff, but then also has to be doing all the other stuff as well. So if you can recommend me a guest who is big into the specialist games like Blood Bowl and Titanicus that isn't mini wargaming, because well, working with them is not always the. I think we've tried before because I think Alexis knew Dave a bit somewhat from doing back reps with him. So I'm not sure who really you would recommend for that. By all means, tell me if you do know someone, but I'm not sure who you would recommend for Blood Bowl. Oh, hello, Clive. Your timing is very convenient considering our other mod had to go to the shops. So, fair enough. It's just a perfect tag in, tag out job. CK Nor. Well, we've had. Okay, that's a name. I haven't heard that name. I might give it a look if I get time. We have had different people with different skill sets on before. So, like when we've had Neve and the other Warp Time Radio people, they're very much, particularly Scarlet, is into 30k. Storm also as well. And then when we've had Narina, we've got a lot more of sort of an art and 40k perspective. When we get Oculus, we get a 30k and just general nerd perspective. Snipe and Weir, we've got all that old niche info. When we've had Scruffers is one of the artists. Wargamer Girl comes with a different insight as well. I don't know if you might be referring to Wargamer Girl, or possibly. Yeah, because we've had Chick Paint, Scruffers, Wargamer Girl, Miranda, Alexis, Snipe and Will, obviously, Scarlet, Neve. Just trying to think who else you might be referring to off the top of my head, because I don't have a photographic memory of the entire guest list of Adeptus Podcast. I don't have it photographically committed to memory. We've had Voldemort. Voldemort was on episode 98. So we will get Voldemort back, but not right away, because you've got to leave a certain gap in your guest rotation. There was that one time we had Sniping with back to back, but that was, I think, either because they were in, it was 49, was it 49.50? We had Sniping with, no, 49 was Disharmonia, 51 was Markiplier. When did we have Sniping with back to back? We have had shows where people had to bail at the last minute. I think we had a show where White, I think, had to step in at the last minute, or Thunder had to step in at the last minute. That's happened before. We've had things happen, and Zoran, Zoran actually is returning to the show very soon. We have agreed an appointment for Zoran to come on the show again. I'm not telling you when, but Zoran will be on the show again soon. The reason he couldn't do episode 100 is because it was on a Friday, and whenever we get Zoran on the show, we have to film on Saturdays because of his work commitments. So we couldn't get Zoran for 100 because of just what day it was on. Which was unfortunate, because I'd love to have Zoran on that show. But obviously when we do get him back on soon, we'll have 2 full hours of his undivided attention. And it'll be a good chance to talk about, because I think today, Focus Interactive put out the Necromunda Underhives gameplay trailer thing. So we could talk about that with him, and Darktide as well. So I'm looking forward to when we get Zoran back on, which is soon, but I can't tell you when exactly. Yeah. Sometimes, some guess it's just a case of getting a day that works for everyone. Remlaze and I have very much got into our routine, but sometimes we have to just shufty it around to accommodate, which is fine, and we don't mind doing it in the slightest, which is just something that we have to do. I don't want to lift too much of the curtain, though, on how Podcasters is run. Mind you, it's not like we're the only podcast. Like, there's Warp Time Radio, of course. There's Misanthropod. There's Alexis, I think, has had her podcast, which I've been on before. Well, Remlers and I think she's going to try and... I don't know if that will come back at some point. And who knows what other podcasts may appear on the YouTube radar one day or another. There's the Emperor's podcast from TTS, though that obviously operates by very different rules to everyone else. Oh, Richard Boiler, that could be interesting. Obviously, being an animator, I don't actually know how categoric... Actually, wait, hang on, yeah, he would have the law knowledge to keep up with this. It could be an interesting show. I don't know if it's one that we could race to get, but thank you for recommending it. It's one that I wouldn't have considered straight away. So thank you for pointing it out, and I'll pass that on as an idea. Okay, that's that highlight done. Zero's purple, and then just actually we'll do Stormhost Silver first, and then it will just be a bit of purple, and then we'll be done here. Well, aside from the shield, which I'm going to do off camera because I forgot it existed. Oh, right. Yeah, there's one guest actually who I've weighed up inviting recently, and I don't think I will, but there's a name that just come up recently, and that's Krendor. So someone who worked with TB a bit. And the reason for Krendor is because he plays Blood Bowl, the video game. He does it every year. But also because he's recently started an actual miniatures channel, and GW paid so much attention they gave him an Indomitus box, even though he didn't play 40k at the time, which I found quite funny. So yeah, it's one of those things. He's the name I've been tempted to speak to. The Death of Hope thing, I've only sort of heard about this whole Death of Hope cancellation thing in passing. From what I understand, it was pulled, and then some yelling happened forwards and backwards, and apparently it's not cancelled, but I don't know. I don't know the details enough to comment, but I believe it's a bit more complex than just it got cancelled. Right, so I've just been told by one of the magic voices in my ear that it's now on hiatus. Where's the rose purple there? Okay, and then finally, a bit of technical paint on the chalice and maybe a smidge on the blade as well. But it's split. Hold on. Literally, I used this paint no more than a week and a half ago, and it's already completely split. There we go. Bit onto her hand as well. Clearly see there's been some runoff down her hand, which is bloody-handed, you know, like Cain, the bloody-handed god. Makes sense. And then just a smidge on cutting edge of this here glaive. Actually, no, that looks a bit done. No, remove that. Oh, God. Okay, that was a mistake. I've just completely broke her arm off. Alright, well, we're on to the assembly phase. Just to pretend we've got a bit more to assemble. Right, let's get this girl on the hand, on the... let's get this girl on her base. And then I won't have to worry about paint rubbing off anymore. Okay, and bomb and bomb. I may have to get the super glue for this. We'll see how we go. Okay. So, she's on her base. She's going to need about 5 minutes to dry because I need to get her arm back on and I need her absolutely set before I do that. But once I've reattached the arm, we are done. So that's where the Hag Queen is right now. She needs her arm reattaching. She's all good. It's all fine and happy. It's all a good time. And then I just need to paint the rim of the base, but that takes like 5 minutes. Okay, so that's just got to stay. Are we good? Blood for the Blood God looks good. Yep. Happy. Okay, actually, she's staying pretty well. Okay, that will hold. So leave that another minute to hold. Actually, now might be a good time to paint the rest of the base rim. Yeah, now's a good time to paint the rest of the base rim. Whoops, lid. Okay, I'm going to say this here about Arch. Bear in mind my profession. Bear in mind, I'm a teacher now. Whatever you think of him personally, whatever I think of him personally, is irrelevant at this point. With the profession I am in, association with an individual accused of such things or associated with such things is exceptionally ill-advised. So irrespective of what I, Remlays, or our viewers think of him, there is no way that those views, whether he holds them or is just associated with people who hold them, can be on the show and associated with the channel. And I would say the same thing about people who held political views and openly expressed political views on the other end of the spectrum. Because at the same time, such things, there is a time and a place for them. An association with that on the channel is not it. Because of my profession, I have to be at the very least in public, and the way I practice and the people I speak to and the way I talk about certain things politically as near to neutral as can be, whilst also, coming down on the side of, fairness and British values and things like that, because that's what I have to teach to my students. So, irrespective of what I, Remlays, or our viewers think, I do not see a scenario in which he comes on Podcasters. And as far as I am aware, now I haven't confirmed this, but Alexis asked him, nearly 100 episodes ago, when we were getting started, he was asked, and he said no. I don't recall the reasons why. I don't know if I was ever told, but he said no. So, there you go. To put the matter to bed, because I know we get it every episode, and it's always the most heavily argued comment we get on nearly every episode, there is no pragmatic, logical reason, given my profession, for him to be on the show. And when he was asked, long, long ago, when none of us were associated with any of that, and Alexis was openly working with him at the time, obviously she's distanced from him now, he said no. So, can we consider that matter benched, to bed, and dealt with now? Okay? Is that okay? Can we leave that now in the past? It's done. We're done. But in the time it's taken me to address that, I now have a chance to glue this arm back on, which is good. Anyone planning on... Oh, yes, this. So Black Library are currently doing an open submission challenge. It's Warhammer horror themed, so if you fancy yourself as a horror writer, then you can get involved in a Black Library open submissions contest. I won't, because I hate horror. It's not my thing at all. I've said that ever since Warhammer Horror was unveiled. I hate horror as a concept, but I still think the books are cool. So, not for me. But if you would like to get involved, then head over to Warhammer Community. They've got the full details. Excuse me. Is that done? I think we are done. I've just got to paint the brown base rim. But at the moment, I'm just gonna let this, dry. So this is the completed Hag Queen. I don't know how good that will appear on camera, but she is done. She is base coated, highlighted, all 9 yards, and complete, minus the rim on the base. So there you go. She's done. And once I've done the shield, because as I say, I forgot the shield. So once I've done that and stuck that to her back, I will, put the photos in the Discord server and on Twitter, Facebook, and all that social media stuff I have to do because it's my secondary job, well, tertiary job, besides make videos and be interesting. And arguably, it's as well. Arguably, be interesting comes even further down the list in some people's minds. But I'm not getting into that. I just need to tidy up the boots because I think the glue rubbed a little bit of paint off the boots. Okay, that's tidied that up. Okay, random question. Does she even need the shield? I don't know. I'm just looking at it now and I'm thinking to myself, do I need to put the shield on her back? I don't know. It's just that from the front, it looks really good with the shield on the back, but then when you turn it round, I don't know. It looks really good from behind. What do you think, chat? Shield or no shield? Should I even bother painting that shield or should I just keep it for later? Okay, that's a very emphatic no. Shield works, but better without. Okay, alright, well I'll leave it off then. Okay, no shield. Alright, you've made your point, chat. You've made your point. You've made your point. Alright. So, since we've nearly coming up on 3.5 hours, I think now will be a good time to wrap the stream up, roughly. So I'm just going to start packing things away and I'm going to paint the rim of this base. So if you have any final questions or things about the terrain that you want to recommend, because I'm going to put the poll out tonight before I go to bed with the options of the next terrain project. So I've got the Mausoleum that I'm going to convert with lots of elven stuff, the Twin Temples of Tyrion and Teclis, the Carillium and sort of the twin realmed sort of shadow twilight light forest thingy. They were sort of the four I had in mind. So if you have any further ideas or requests, then now it's time to get them in, as well as any final questions or things to talk about. And if you would like, of course, to join the channel's Discord server one last time, then please make sure to click the link that has gone around in chat a few times. You can join the server, and we will be doing a Snarkathon tomorrow as part of the Warhammer preview of Shadow, Iron, and Broken Realms. So you are welcome to join that and get involved in that Snarkathon, because I always enjoy doing Snarkathons. And we also have regular hangouts in voice chat. So me and a couple of the mods are in voice chat at the moment, just monitoring the stream, because it's nice to have mods in your ear while you do that. And so we usually do that quite often. We've got channels for showing off painting, showing up and discussing rules, and just general videos of interest, and so on and so forth. So yeah, you are more than welcome to join the server. There's plenty going on besides the Snarkathon. I have seen someone join the server tonight, so I believe the link is working correctly, which is good. Okay, there we go. So I've just done that. So now that I've done that and chat's had a last chance to talk to me before we wrap things up, I am going to call that a stream. It has been an absolute pleasure to hang out with all of you this evening. Currently working on can be removed because we have now finished the project. Go away. We have finished the project. The Hag Queen conversion is done. Fully painted up in just about 3.5 hours because, you know, it took me ages to get started, and we chatted about terrain things ages and loads of times. But it's been a really good stream, so thank you very much to everyone who's come and got involved in chat, thrown ideas around, or just sat around and listened while I've had a talk and we've had a paint. So I hope you've enjoyed the stream. If you are new here, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that lovely notification bell to stop me doing it again, because God, I hate subscription promos. But anyway, so tomorrow there will be a 40k Stories episode on a not requested topic, but a species that gets a lot of views when it is on, so I hope you do enjoy that. And I will probably have my thoughts out on Monday for the preview stream, because I think there's going to be plenty there from a number of game systems to talk about, so I'm looking forward to having that conversation. We'll be recording Adeptus Podcastus toward the end of next week with a guest, so that'll be out in about 10 days' time. As for future streams, I am hoping to stream once in the middle of next week, where I will probably be working on either some Lumineth Cavalry, or we might just have a bit of a convertathon where we work on the Bloodrack Shrine or the Slaughter Queen or something like that. So there's plenty of things that we could do. I'm hoping to stream maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Probably Tuesday, now that I think about it, because I think it's Family Quiz Night on Wednesday. So, plenty to look forward to. Thank you very much everyone who's come out. It's been an absolute pleasure, and if you're watching this in post, then I hope that you haven't been too bored listening to everything we've had to say. Join the Discord if you would like, and I will see you all very, very soon. This has been Tactica Imperialis. Thank you all very much for watching, and good night.